What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be taking you through how I build arrows. This is going to be a step-by-step, in-depth breakdown and walk through everything that I do to build my hunting arrows. These are going to be specifically built for my Hoyt Carbon RX9. This is my Western big game bow, 83 pounds, 27-inch draw. The arrows I picked for this bow are a 4mm shaft. These are the VAP TKOs. These are made by Victory. This is actually my first time building the VAP TKOs. I've heard very good things about these arrows, so I decided to give them a try myself. But this is what the arrow is going to look like finished. I went with my Whitetail Fit American Wraps and Whitetail Fit Flow Yellow AAE Hybrid 26 vanes. In a 3-fletch. And then for the component system, I'm running the Swacker LRP system. I'll kind of show you how that works really quick. I've got a practice point on here right now, but it is a threaded post insert outsert collar system. This is the practice tip. This is what the broadheads look like. When you screw these on here, I'll show you kind of the system. It's pretty cool. I don't know if you can see, but there is a little notch on this collar, and that perfectly aligns the blades every single time as long as I glue the insert and the collar in the same way every time. Another thing I liked about these arrows from the factory, they are spine aligned. I'm sure it's pretty close to accurate. I don't know how accurate, but it's definitely a good reference point to fletch everything to the exact same way. And that way we've got, again, a very consistent arrow. Your arrow is going to come out of the bow the same and flex the same with the spine in the same place every single time. So again, it just creates consistency across all of your arrows. And then on top of that, the different steps and measures that I take when building an arrow to create even more consistency, I'm going to show you in this video. We're going to be building a dozen arrows today, and I'm going to show you absolutely every single step that I take along the way. Hopefully this will be a good informational video for you, or if you've ever wondered how or why I fletch and build arrows the way that I do, this video is going to explain that. Let's get right into it. VAP TKOs, Hoyt Carbon RX9. This is going to be the hunting setup for Western big game. I'll show you exactly how I do absolutely everything with these arrow builds, and then we're going to weigh them out and show you what I've got for a finished arrow across all dozen. So as I mentioned, the arrows I am building are Victory Archery VAP TKOs. These are a 4mm arrow, 0.166. They are 0.001 straightness, and they've got the feature that is the spine align. Again, I like that spine align feature. It just gives me a reference to fletch everything exactly the same. But aside from the arrow, let's go to the components I'm going to be using. These are the LRP collars, and these are the LRP threaded post inserts. This is a broadhead system from Swacker that I've ran the last several years and have absolutely fallen in love with. Very accurate system, consistent. Across the board, it checks a lot of boxes for me, and the broadheads themselves are, I've had such good luck with Swacker, it's insane. So we're building a Swacker LRP system. They actually sell an LRP package that comes with both components and the broadhead so that you can build this system yourself. But what I would recommend is get yourself a mic or look up online the exact measurements of whatever arrows you're going to be building. So these arrows in particular, I looked up and figured out the exact measurements for the given collar system that I need. While most all 4mm arrows are going to be a 0.166 inside diameter, 5mm 0.204, so on and so forth, the studs are going to be specific to the inside diameter, and the collars are going to be specific to the outside diameter. So if you buy a 0.166 arrow, all of the 0.166 studs are going to work for you. But every arrow manufacturer, and specifically weight of arrow, grains per inch, is going to have a different outside diameter. So Swacker makes an A collar, which is what I'm going to be using. They also make an E collar, a D collar, B collar, F collar. They've got a ton of different collars to fit the exact arrow that you're going to be running. So as you can see on the back, the A collar in particular fits a 0.166 micro diameter shaft with an outside diameter between 0.242 and 0.245. Now this is a 300 spine. If you were to run like a 350 spine or a 250 spine, it's probably going to be a different collar than this. In fact, I know it is. If I run a 350 spine in the 0.166 4mm shaft, I need a C collar, which is what's in these packs, and these will be built for my 70-pound bow. Totally different setup, totally different collar system. So just look up what the best fit is for your arrow and your shaft diameter. Again, you can look up the collar sizing, what it will fit on Swacker's website. But as for buying your arrows that will fit those collars, a lot of the manufacturers have the arrow outside diameters listed. Otherwise, take a mic to your arrow and figure out exactly what it is and what collar is going to best fit you. It is a insert-outsert system with a threaded male post, and then the broadheads and field points themselves are specifically female thread. So it's just a very robust, accurate, and consistent component setup, which is what I'm going for. Here are the bare shafts I'm gonna be working with. I need to cut these down to my exact length, which is gonna be 25 1/4. That's for a 27-inch draw. You wanna make sure that you're taking into account the collar system that sits back on the arrow, because you don't wanna cut it right to your arrow rest and then put the collar over it and then realize that the collar is sitting on your arrow rest when you're at full draw. So the perfect length for me is 25 1/4. On the back end of the arrow shafts, I'm gonna be running the Nocturnal Shift G nocks. I like running a lighted nock for several reasons. One reason being, on video, it is way easier to figure out where I hit the animal. It's easier visual for me to know where I hit the animal even without video, just right after the shot. Obviously you can see just a dang laser beam going to him. So that's a huge benefit of nocturnals, as well as if you get a pass through on the animal, you can find your arrow way easier with a nocturnal or just a lighted nock in general. And if the arrow's stuck in the animal and you are blood trailing at dark, most of the time, if that nocturnal has stayed on, you can see that animal from a very long ways away if that arrow is sticking up, you know, out of the body cavity. So anyway, a lot of good reasons to run lighted nocks for a hunting situation. If I'm just target practicing or doing total archery challenge and stuff like that, I don't really have a need to run nocturnals, maybe other than like the video side of stuff. For hunting, it is like that I'll always have a lighted nock on my arrow as long as it's legal in the given state that I'm hunting. That's pretty much the component system, the nocks, the arrows themselves. I'm going to be fletching with the Bitzenberger jig. I also have a G5 squaring tool, and then a Harbor Freight arrow saw. It's not an arrow saw at all, but it is a diamond blade tile saw, and it works perfectly for cutting arrows. At least it works well enough for me, and it was cheap. It was like 25 bucks or something like that. So I'll show you that. It works pretty good. We also have an October Mountain Products scale. That's going to be used to weigh each and every component, as well as the finished arrows once everything is done being built. I've got tack vein glue for my fletching. Again, Whitetail Fit AAE Hybrid 26 fletches with Whitetail Fit American Arrow wraps, both in flow yellow. I like a bright fletch and wrap combination for hunting for a couple different reasons. A lot of the same reasons why I like nocturnals. It's easier to see on video. I can find my arrow easier. And also blood shows up on the arrow a lot clearer. Like I can see exactly the hit that I made with a flow yellow or an all white arrow. I really like all white. I probably would have fletched these with all white, but I sold out of the white fletching and my white wraps right before I moved to Iowa. So I need to restock with everything. And honestly, I need to turn my website back on, get everything going again, because now I am established in Iowa. My warehousing is in Iowa, and hopefully I can get that stuff up and running for you guys. So if you want to purchase any veins or wraps or merch in general, you can hop on the website and help support the channel. So anyway, I'll get all that figured out, put together, and make an announcement on the website hopefully pretty soon. When building arrows, typically I like to do everything in series. So I will cut all of the arrow shafts at once. I will square all of the arrow shafts at once. I will fletch all of the arrow shafts at once, Put all the components together at once. Everything happens in series when building a dozen arrows. All right, we're gonna go ahead and mark all of the arrow shafts and cut them all at the same time. Okay, with the arrow shafts, I'm gonna take each and every shaft and bring it to my yardstick here. I've got a yardstick with 1/16 inch measurements. I've already got my 25 1/4 marked out for the LRP 27-inch draw. I'll take the arrow, pop off the nock, line it up with the end right there at 0. Then I'll come down to my 25 1/4 mark. And then I've got just a little bit of white paint on a fine tip paintbrush. Come right down to 25 1/4, make a little mark. That's my cut line. And then I'll move on to the next one. And I'll do that for all of the arrows. A Sharpie doesn't show up very well at all on these arrows. So I'm just using a white little bit of paint and a fine tip paintbrush. Okay, I've got all of the arrows marked up. Now we can cut them. All right, so when you are squaring these shafts, I've got about half of these squared already, but I like to take a little bit of paint or like a silver Sharpie and just paint the end of this arrow shaft. So it's got white right there. Okay, I'll take that and I'll dab it off on a cloth, but the end of the arrow shaft will still have that white ring. So then I'll come to my squaring device, put it in there, roll evenly a couple of times, take it out, look at it. See, I've got just a hair left on that shaft that's still white right there. Keep squaring this thing until all that white is gone. Just a little bit more. Just like that, all that white's gone. That arrow shaft is square. Okay, I've got all of my arrows cut and squared. We're ready to start wiping them down and putting wraps on them. All right, for the arrow wraps, again, I'm using the Whitetail Fit American wraps. And we're just gonna take this mouse pad right here and lay our wrap down on the mouse pad with the WF facing this way. That's going to be the top of the arrow where the nock is. Lay it down flat like that. I'm going to take some acetone on a shop towel and wipe off the end of the shaft. I'm going to go through and do that to all of the shafts. Again, as I'm done doing one, I flip the label over so I know that I've already done that one. You can use isopropyl alcohol, you can use acetone, you can use the arrow wipes that AAE makes, soap and water, whatever you want to use to get the grease and grime off before you wrap these things. I will say with acetone, you want to be careful to not like soak your arrows. It would take a lot of time soaking in acetone, but you just want to do a quick wipe with acetone. You don't want to sit there and wipe it forever and soak your arrow in acetone. I think it's the best cleaner. It dries fast and it gets absolutely all of the grease and grime off of the arrow. But again, if you were to soak this arrow in, say, a bath of acetone, acetone can separate glues, so you just don't want to soak the arrow for a long time. Just a quick wipe and you're plenty good. So now we're going to take the arrow shaft. We're going to look for these little words right here that say spine aligned, and there's an arrow going through that VAP TKO. I want the spine of this arrow to be where the wrap starts. So I want the overlap of the wrap to be right on that spine. So I'm going to take the arrow, lay it down on my mat, and roll that spine down to the bottom. Find right where that's at. I'm going to slide this arrow right up to the wrap until it starts pushing the wrap forward on that mouse pad, just like that. Stop. Roll it on while pushing down on the mouse pad, just like that. Now I'm going to take my finger, run it right along the edge of that wrap, make sure it's nice and sealed. And now the spinal line is going to be right in line with the overlap of that wrap right there. So that's also where I'm going to fletch my cock feather. So we're going to take each one of these shafts, run it up against the straight edge with the spine alignment logo facing straight up and down. I'm going to come down to the end. I'm going to take my white paint and make just a very, very light mark right on the top of the shaft where that component's going to go. That white mark is going to resemble the spine alignment for when I end up gluing all of the components into these things. So we'll go through and mark each one of these arrows. Also, as you can see, I'm marking the top of the arrow behind where the collar would slide over. That way I can get perfect alignment. All right, let's get started fletching these things. So I've got my fletching jig. I use the Bitzenberger jig, and you want to make sure when you set up your Bitzenberger that you have perfect connection before you start gluing down all your veins and whatnot. You want to make sure you have perfect connection with the heel and the head of this vein with the arrow shaft. And I mean like perfect left to right on the back and left to right on the front. You can adjust that on the Bitzenberger with these two screws and wheels. Just loosen it, adjust it, because if you don't have that set perfect, you're going to run into some issues with vein adhesion. And then I'm going to do 3 fletch with this, so I've got it in the 120 degree position. Adjust it so that the flat is facing upward. Put my nock in the jig, and I'm going to move this arrow, rotate this arrow until that spine align logo right here is facing straight up towards the clamp where the first vein is going to go on. So I want that spinal line logo to be right in line with my first vein. That's going to be my cock vein, or referred to as the cock feather, that's going to be facing straight up in my drop away rest. That will be going back to the exact same position across all of these arrows at all times. So my cock feather is aligned with the spine alignment, which is aligned with the component system, which is aligned with the broadhead, which is aligned with the nock. All of it is going to be perfectly aligned across all dozen arrows. The nice thing about my Whitetail Fit veins, the AAE Hybrid 26s, a couple things. They're really quiet vein. They're a stable vein. I've been using them for years, love them. They are a direct adhesion vein, meaning they don't need any adhesion promoter. They just get glue and straight to the vein. So I've already marked my Bitzenberger clamp. I've loved this position for the vein based on how I shoot my facial structure. I have a beard, so I want to make sure that the vein is clearing my beard at full draw. So I found that that mark back there is the perfect length, and that is from the end of cut carbon to the start of the vein is exactly 1 inch. So it's 1 inch from cut carbon to the vein. That's not throat of the nock to the vein, that's cut carbon to the vein. So I'm gonna load my first vein right here in the jig, bring the back of the vein up to that mark. Then I'm gonna use my glue. You can use pretty much any glue you want. The AAE Max Bond glue is a great glue, and also this tack vein glue is a great glue. So now I'm gonna take my vein in the clamp, and I'm gonna take my glue and I'm gonna dab 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 small beads of glue right on the heel of that vein. Take the tip of the bottle, spread it out evenly. Come to your arrow. Put the heel of your Bitzenberger up against the clamp body. And then I start with the back end of the vein first and roll it forward to the front of the vein, to just kind of push any of that air up and out of that vein. And then I'm gonna hold it there in position for about 6 or 7 seconds. That's why I like this tack vein glue, because it is a very fast bond. It doesn't take long at all. So 6 or 7 seconds of holding it, release the clamp, and roll it to the next position. One gripe that I would have with the Bitzenberger jig is it seems like to get the tolerances really, really tight where you're not gonna have that arrow moving around, I have to use a pair of pliers to move the roller because of where I have to have this thing adjusted. It's kind of a pet peeve. I love the Bitzenberger, but to get it as tight as I truly want it, I have to use a pair of pliers to roll that thing. It's kind of annoying. If I don't have a pair of pliers, there's just too much slop in this barrel and you get a little bit of variance with how it fletches. But otherwise, I feel like the Bitzenberger has some of the best vein contact when it comes to arrow fletching. So we're gonna put that on there. 7, 8. Just like that. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my glue and just barely put a little bit right on the front end of that vein, just to kind of help hold that vein down if it passes through something. Same thing on the back, just a little bit. Now I've got a perfectly fletched arrow. The wrap overlap is right in line with the spine alignment, as well as the cock feather. Now, again, I'm going to be running nocturnal nocks in these arrows, but for now, when I'm fletching, I'm using the factory nocks for fletching because I feel like they're a little more consistent with the Bitzenberger jig, because the nocturnal nocks have a little plunger right there in the throat of the nock, and I want to make sure when I'm fletching that everything is in the stationary position where everything's the same. Now, I'm sure you guys don't want to sit here and watch every single one of these arrows get fletched, so we're going to snap our fingers and have all of them done and move on to the next step. All right, we've got all of our arrows fletched and the veins drying. Next thing we're gonna do is weigh all of our components from lightest to heaviest. I've got my scale here, I've got my components. I'm gonna start taking them out of the package, weighing each one, and then here on the table, I don't know if you can see this or not, I'll get in nice and close. Here on the table, I've got L and H. That stands for lightest and heaviest. So I'm going to be weighing out each and every component and putting it on my lightest to heaviest scale. Then we're going to mix and match all of our components and match them with the arrows. We're going to weigh all of the studs, all of the collars, all of the field points, all of the nocks. We're going to weigh each and every arrow and then figure out if one arrow is heavier than the other, then that one needs to get a lighter component than the other one. You mix and match to make a consistent arrow weight across all of your arrows. So we're going to go ahead and start taking these out of the package, weighing every component and putting it on our lightest to heaviest scale. So in our little cup here, we've got all of our collars that we need for the rest of the 9 arrows we got to build. So we're just going to take them one by one, weigh them on the scale, and then on the table I've got L and H, that's for lightest and heaviest. Weigh them out, put them in order how they go on this scale. So starting with the first collar, 12 ounces exactly. Second collar, 12.2 ounces, so that's going to be on the higher side. Go on the right. 12, that'll go on the left. 12.2, that'll go between. 12, that'll go on the light side. 12.4, so that'll go towards the heavy side. 12.2 in the middle. 12.2 right next to that one. 12.4, so towards the heavier side. Heaviest being 12.6 and our lightest being 12 exactly. So 0.6 grains difference. Now that's just the collars. Now we're going to go through and do the exact same thing with our inserts, the threaded post inserts, which we've got in our cup right here. 60 on the dot, 60.6, so I'll go towards the heavier side. 60.6 towards the heavier side still. 60, that'll go on our left side. 60.4, so that will go in the middle. 60.2, left side of the middle. 60.6, heavy side. 60.2, middle. Same thing, we've got all of our studs ranging from 60 to 60.6 in weight. We'll weigh our lightest one again. 60 for our lightest, 60.6 for our heaviest. So same thing as the collars. Now we're going to take each and every knock, weigh every knock, put them in the same scale. 16.4, these are fairly consistent. 16.4, 16.4. That's really consistent actually. Now weighing out our field points. 104.2, 104.4, 104.2, 104.4. Our lightest to heaviest on our field points is a variance of 104 being the lightest and 104.4 being the heaviest. So between all field points, we've got 0.4 grains of variance. Between all inserts, I believe it was 0.6 grains of variance. Between our studs, 0.6 grains of variance. And between our nocks, 0.2 grains of variance. So now I've got 4 cups here, and I'm going to categorize each one of these components into a lightest to heaviest scale. So with our nocks, we got 12 nocks. 12 divided by 4. We're going to take 3 nocks, put it in the lightest cup on the left-hand side. So the lightest end of the scale, 3 nocks going in the left cup. Next 3 nocks going in the second to left cup. The next 3 nocks going into the third, and the next 3 going into the heaviest. So now we're going to take our field points, same thing, 12 divided by 4. We're going to take 3 of the lightest, go in the light cup, 3 of the next lightest, second cup, 3 of the third lightest, third cup, 3 of the heaviest, fourth cup. So now we've got our components separated in 4 separate cups from lightest to heaviest. So now when I weigh all of my arrows and get a variance on what the weight of the arrow is, I can dip into whichever cup I need to mix and match components in order to match all of these arrows to get a very, very consistent weight across the board. Does this have to be done when building arrows? Absolutely not. Do I like to do it when I am building a hunting setup that I want to trust and know that I can shoot accurately? Absolutely. Peace of mind. It's all peace of mind for me. All right, now we're going to take all of our fletched arrows that don't have any components on them yet, take all of the nocks out, and we're going to take each one of these arrows and we're going to weigh them one by one, and we're going to put them on a scale of lightest to heaviest. Lightest being closest to me on the table, heaviest being furthest away. 274.6. 274. So now I have a scale right now. So far this is the heaviest and this is the lightest. 274.6, 274.6, 275, 274.8, 274.6. So we're going to take our heaviest arrow with our lightest components, and we're going to weigh all of that together. And we get 268.6. So let's write this down. 268.6. Okay. Now we're going to take our lightest arrow with the heaviest components and do the same. See where that ends up. 268. Our middle ground, 268.6 and 268.8. We're going to look for 268.3. That's what we're going to shoot for with our median arrow setup. So we're just going to mix and match our components until we get 268.3. So I know this first arrow was heaviest components. So we're going to stick with our field tip. And we're going to swap out our stud for a second lightest stud. See if that can drop us down into 268.3. That's our target weight. $268.4, 268.4, 268.2. So I don't know that it'll read a 268.3. For whatever reason, it's going in 0.2 increments. So this arrow is bouncing between 268.4 and 268.2. So our target goal for our median arrow is 268.2 or 4. We'll be happy with 2 or 4. So now we go through our scale and we mix and match our lightest and heaviest arrows with our lightest and heaviest components to hit a goal weight of 268.2 or 268.4. We'll be happy with either of those numbers to get a median arrow. Like that should be the weight of pretty much all of our arrows across the board when we're done with this, because we've found what our variance in scale is. With our lightest arrow and our heaviest components, we had 268. With our heaviest components and our lightest arrow, we had 268.6. By the time we mix and match all of these components, we should end up with all of our arrows weighing 268.2 or 268.4. I don't think the scale will read 0.3, so we're going to be happy with 0.2 or 0.4. That is how I mix and match all my components to get an incredibly accurate arrow across the board. Hope that makes sense. All right, we're going to go through and mix and match all of these arrows and all of these components. It's going to take a while to do so, but we're going to have fun with it and just get it done and get through it. But again, going to snap my fingers and we'll be ready to start gluing these components in. I'm so stupid. I don't know where in this video I started saying 268, but it's supposed to be 468. I think I was weighing just the shafts when I started getting 2 in my head. 2, 2, 2 over and over and over. Yeah, whoops. Somewhere I got that 2 in my head, and I sincerely apologize throughout this video. I've been saying 268, 268, 268. Finished arrow weight, it's 468.2 or 468.4. So still 0.2 variance across 12 arrows. That's a pretty tight tolerance. Time to glue them in.
I'm very cold.
To give you an idea of how light 0.2 grains is, and across 12 arrows to have that type of variance, I'm going to take this knock, put it on the scale. That knock is 7.2 grains. That's super, super light 4mm G knock, 7.2 grains. There's only 0.2 grain difference across all 12 arrows that I just built. That's pretty crazy. That's like an extra drop of super glue is 0.2 grains. Not even a full drop, like half a drop of super glue is 0.2 grains. Pretty crazy. Pretty easy process for gluing these. I'm gonna go ahead and just seat my nocturnal right at the cock vein, at the spine alignment, just like that, with the button of the nocturnal facing the spine as well. I'm going to do that on all of these arrows. Then I'm going to take this notch. If you can see that, there's a little notch on that stud. That will get lined up with my spine alignment mark, which aligns with the spine on the arrow, which aligns with the cock feather, which aligns with the nocturnal with the button. So everything's all good. Oh, and the wrap underneath will be lined up as well. So because I am not going to need to remove the components from these arrows at all, they're all purpose built already. I don't want to change anything about them. I am going to just use our tack vein glue to glue in the inserts. I've done this for years with super glue. I've used the Max Bond glue, the tack vein glue, and they hold incredibly strong. Honestly, I've had better luck with super glue not having inserts pull out than most epoxies that I've used. I don't know why that is. Epoxy seems like it should be better, but maybe it breaks down over time with enough shots and enough heat. I don't know. But super glue works very, very well. The only downside to using super glue for inserts is the bond is almost instantaneous. So you want to make sure that you put the glue on all your components. This connection I'm not as worried about. But when you get all of the glue on your components and get it into the arrow, you need to make your adjustments for your spine alignment right away. Like right away. Because it will set very quickly. Grab our super glue. We're going to put a couple rounds on the stud. Then we're going to put a couple rounds on the outside of our arrow shaft. We'll drop on the inside of the shaft. And we're going to find our spine alignment. We're going to seat our collar into the stud. And we're going to take our stud and collar together. And line them up with the spine alignment. Just like that. Wipe off our excess. That insert isn't going anywhere. Alright guys, there we have it. Everything is glued in. We're going to weigh these. 468.4, 468.4, 468.6, 468.6, 468.4. So all across the board, 468.4 to 468.6 across all 1 dozen arrows. Pretty sweet. This arrow build turned out awesome. Again, these are the Victory Archery 4mm VAP TKOs, 0.166 inside diameter. Running the Swacker LRP A collars with the 0.166 threaded posts and the Swacker LRP broadhead field point system. So the LRP component system paired with the Nocturnal Shift G-Knock, Whitetail Fit AAE Hybrid 26 3-fletch, Whitetail Fit American arrow wraps. Absolutely everything with these arrows are completely in alignment. They are all within 0.2 grains of each other. When you spine align your arrows and align it with the collar system from LRP, all of your broadheads are going to be oriented in the exact same direction. They have machined the threaded posts to do so when you have everything in alignment with that little notch in the collar. So altogether, this is a very, very consistent, very accurate arrow build. Yeah, I'm stoked with how it turned out. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you learned something. I appreciate y'all watching, and I can't wait for the hunts. We're getting very, very close. Looking forward to get out for mule deer as my first hunt, and then elk, whitetail. We've got a bunch of stuff coming up this year. If you haven't already, be sure and subscribe to the channel. Appreciate y'all watching. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.